Alright, so we have emptied the kiln. You can see the two secondary upper exit flues are plugged after the first firing. I contacted the designer and he said, oh, you don't need those, go ahead and plug them. So not really sure why they were in the plans, but they were. Exit flues, upper exit flue, secondary, and instead of plugging it this time, we just bricked up the front. We bricked it up when there was right after the last stoke, and then I also shut the dampener, so which I think gave us some good results and may have yielded some bad ones. I need to look some stuff up to be sure. So we're going to go out and look at some of the work. It's a nice day. It's kind of a mess out here, but it is a construction site. Alright, so oops. Now, when you're looking at this piece, you're probably thinking I used some kind of like craft show rutile blue, and it's not. It's actually a Nuka, and it's just ash, feldspar, well, Cornwall stone, which is a feldspar, by the way. So ash, Cornwall stone, and some silica or flint, whatever you want to call it. And it went blue. On this piece, it actually went slightly green. You can see some sagey green in there. Maybe you can see it. But if you look down here, it's powder blue. I mean, it is straight up like Celadon powder blue. This piece here, oops, ran all over the shelf, so going to have some fun with that. I don't think the kiln wash is going to help much with that. You can see it here too. This looks just like a rutile blue, you know, at your local craft fair that you walk by and kind of gag at. No offense for those of you who really love rutile blue, but that's the Nuka. And you can see the ash, it went gold with the blue and did some cool things. So in that sense, I like it. In the sense that it kind of looks like a rutile blue from the Chun effect. I don't like it because it looks kind of cheesy. We used it right up front. Let's see, here's a good example. You can see where it went Chun blue on the bottom. I think that's what it's called. But there's no iron in the glaze. It's just iron from the ash and you know, whatever was floating around in the kiln. So I didn't add any ash to that. This is a Phil Rogers green glaze, which turned out pretty cool. Well, it's not a green glaze. Again, it's just, there's no iron in it. It just picks up on the iron from the ash that's in the glaze. It's an ash glaze. And looked really good. Did have some real bummers, though. You can see the bloating on the body here. That was a surprise. I've never seen that happen. And I don't know if that's from air bubbles or from the heavy reduction and shutting it down in reduction. But I'd say about a good third of the bowl's bloated. Here's a cup with a big bloat in it. You know, I tell my son there's about 1,000 ways to ruin a pot, and that is one of them, from just being careless and stupid. And I just cracked that one, which is too bad, because that was a nice one. Yep, that was the ones that, oh, it bloated. Good. Then I don't care. Used a lot of that particular glaze. This is another Phil Rogers glaze that went on bone dry. It's fairly matte. It gathered and ran a little bit, but not much. This is kind of a Temuku base with a little less than, it's like maybe 7% instead of 10% on the Temuku. And some Shino over it. And some of that stuff looked really good. Here's another Chun effect. This was that same iron kind of Temuku looking stuff. And you can see how it went blue. So again, really, really heavy reduction. I think gave us that. Couple of glaze tests that went in. That's a 50-50 local clay and ash. Some clay I got down in the valley. This is actually a thin wash of that same clay just over the pot, a little stoneware pot, like a high iron stoneware. And it pretty much fluxed. I mean, it's pretty matte, but it was also in the back bottom of the kiln. And I think up front, if it had gotten hotter, I think it actually would have melted and formed a pretty good glaze. Some more of that Chun effect here on the front edge, the leading edge of this pot, and the back edge where the ash hit it. And did some cool stuff. So There's some really nice stuff out. Some stuff underfired. Handle cracked on the pitcher, which there was a crack in it when it was bone dry, and I thought I fixed it, and apparently I didn't. So that's kind of a bummer, but you can always make more pitchers. This is a test of a glaze that I made from ash, that local clay again, and some basalt dust from a local quarry that mines basalt. And I knew the basalt would melt, and it definitely ran. You can see where it gathered and just ran all over. In fact, on the inside of this, you can see how it laid down flat. That test tile is the same as this. It's used a textured metal rib of death on the inside of that to see what it'll do, and you can see that just covered it completely. So it's a pretty heavy duty stuff. So yeah, don't put small stuff up front where it can get hit. Most of these glazes, about half of them were experimental. This stuff went on really thick, as you can see, and it ran. My understanding was that the Nuka could take a lot of heat, and it can, but when you put it on too thick, it'll run all over the place, as you can see here. So, kind of a bummer. Here's that same glaze, the Nuka, and you can see where it went almost kind of like a light greenish, bluish gold. I mean, I think we had a lot of crystallization just because we cooled really slow, but that may have given us some of the bloating too. I need to investigate that. There is some iron spots on here from the nails, so a lot of iron flying around the kiln and whatnot. But the some chun there, a little bit of chun blue in the green. You can see green glaze worked really well actually. Back of the kiln it melted where other ones didn't. Front of the kiln it held up. Didn't really run. Did a little bit of Shino, some thin Shino and some stoneware with some kind of Shino painting over it, or dribbling rather. I don't know. I think I'm done with the high iron stoneware. I think we're just going to go with the white stoneware for now. Kind of waxy. Didn't really melt and it was on too thick. So why would you use white glaze in a wood kiln, you may ask? Well, last time I used it just because I was experimenting and it melted pretty nice everywhere, so I kind of used it in the back as a safeguard. But it didn't melt this time because it was too dang thick. Again, some more of that bloating on the inside, the bulges. So, another glaze test from some clay in our yard. And, yeah. So, some ugly pots, some nice pots. Looking forward to the next firing as we continue to learn more and more here. And but that won't be until the fall because it's going to get hot and dry around here, and people aren't going to be cool with me shooting a 8-foot flame up into the sky during fire season. So this was a lava glaze. Didn't really do much last time. It's porcelain. Porcelain's a little fussy. It wants to stick a little bit and then it like chips off. So I don't know if we're going to use much more porcelain. It's just too fussy. It throws pretty easy, but it's just this nice little bottle. You can see what the ash did to it. I fired it on its side, and you kind of got the bottled glass green here. So that was kind of nice, but I think we're done with the white glaze. We're definitely going to focus a lot more on the ash glazes in the next firing. We'll probably use the green again, and I think that's, I mean, some of the ash glazes are just gorgeous. So I don't know why, and especially because I can use local materials, and which is just kind of cool. You can find stuff. Oh, and we had one piece that we dug. That is some clay that I dug locally, and it throws pretty loose. It trims like a laser because there's so much sand in it, and you can see some of the sparkle. There's a lot of sand in it, so it's a little light. So I think maybe have to put it through maybe even 100 mesh sieve. This is through 80, through 100 mesh sieve, and so I can retain more and more of the clay. But maybe the sand's what helped it stand up. I don't know, but it's kind of fun. I'll probably go give this to the people out at the quarry. They'll get a kick out of it. Anyway, we'll talk to you later.